That's IQWealth.com. I'm Amanda Sutphin.
The views expressed on the following program do not necessarily reflect the views of Money Radio staff, management, or advertisers, and do not represent an offer to buy or sell any securities. Some interviews heard on this program may be sponsored by the participants. It's time for Health Futures with Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth. This is Arizona's only show dedicated to providing you with expert advice on how to live a longer, healthier, and happier life. To learn more, call 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Bob Roth.
Good afternoon. You're listening to Health Futures, and I'm your host, Bob Roth, and it must be Friday. And indeed it is. It is Friday, January 18th, and believe it or not, this is my first appearance in the year of 2019. January 18th, 2019, my first appearance. If you caught our last show at the end of the year, I shared with our listening audience I was taking a little sabbatical, medical leave, if you want to call it, and I was fixing a challenge that I was dealing with relative to sleep, and specifically sleep apnea. So I had a septoplasty, tonsillectomy, uvula removal, and as Arnold Schwarzenegger says, I'm back. So it's really good to be back. And I really want to give a shout out to Kent Dix from Life 365, who hosted the show in the very first week in January. And another shout out to Michelle Cornelius, who's our extraordinary dementia Alzheimer's specialist. She handled the show last week, and yours truly is here today. So if this is the first time you're tuning in, our show is about how our older adult population can live a healthier, happier life. And how do we do that? We bring extraordinary guests. It's hard to believe that January 2019 starts our 6th year. So we've been doing this for 6 years, and we probably have about 250 shows up on our website. If you go to cypresshomecare.com, click on the media button. The third button down is radio show, and you can catch this show and about 250 others. So I get the pleasure of hosting the show, and I'm more of a facilitator. But what makes the show is our guests, and we've had extraordinary guests, and I've got one that is returning to the show that hasn't been on him for a little while, but I'm really pleased to have him back. He tells me it's been 2 years. It seems like it was just yesterday. So I would like to welcome back to the show Cameron Svendsen. He is with Faith Hospice, and he's also with Palliative Care Alliance. Welcome back.
Thank you, Bob. It is actually really good to be back. Good to be sitting across from you. Glad you're feeling better.
Thank you.
And yeah, it's been 2 years, I think.
It's incredible. And you know, you were actually supposed to be sharing the mic with Jenny Martin, who is from the Phoenix Cancer Support Network. Unfortunately, could not be here today because she is a sick child. So I want to send a message out to Jenny. Hopefully, your child is on her way to recovery, and we're going to have you back on probably sometime in February. But yes, Cameron, great to have you back on the show.
Thank you so much.
And since you were on last time, you are now a part of a hospice company.
That is true. So the last time, if it's been 2 years like we think, it was Palliative Care Alliance that we started 5 years ago, and just about 2 years ago, we acquired a hospice in town and went through a name change, and it is now Faith Hospice. So these are two separate companies that do two separate things here in Phoenix and in Tucson for the palliative care side. Palliative care and hospice have often been talked about in the same vein, but we do very separate services for palliative care patients and for hospice patients.
Well, I'll tell you what, you do an extraordinary work here in our community, and I would like our listening audience, because I think what resonates with me, with you, is the fact that you have been doing a lot of work in healthcare. As a matter of fact, your family's been doing a lot of work in the aging space for a long time. You're a native of the Valley.
I am. 49 going on 50 years.
Wow. So you get to join the 50 club with me.
Yes.
Very good. Very, very good. But, if you wouldn't mind, give just a real quick, rundown about, how you got here and how you got into the healthcare space.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it brief and fun.
Yep.
My father, who is 84 years old, doing very well. He is also a native, actually not a native, but he's living in the Valley. My mom and dad both are. And he was vice president of public relations for Del Webb Corporation back in the 70s, 60s, 70s, and early 80s before we started a magazine called Sun Life in the west part of town. And a lot of people out there are familiar with Sun Life.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was very easy for me to get involved in working with seniors. And my real first introduction to working for seniors was at an assisted living location in Sun City, and I became an activity director at a very young age. And
I don't think I knew this.
No, well, I don't think we've ever talked about it, but working with them and sitting with the families, it was just easy. It was comfortable. And then getting my MSW at Arizona State, I shifted into more of a clinical setting at a hospital and started working for 10 years for the Sun Health Corporation at that level, at Boswell Hospital, at Del Webb Hospital, and working with families. And again, it became very simple for me to sit down with them and talk about extraordinarily serious things like end-of-life planning. And so from the ethics committee standpoint, was on that at the hospital, on into some other really big programs. I shifted again into hospice, but that was another pretty easy transition in working for hospice and then getting to dialogue more about that with doctors and patients and families on a continuous basis.
Wow. I mean, I really did not know that about you, but, it is in your DNA. And certainly, one of the things that I think you and I have in common, and I think a lot of people in our space have in common, is it's more of a calling. Does it ever feel like work to you?
Never. I don't think it ever has. When I get up in the morning, I don't think about going to work. I think about who is it that I have to impact today, and how can I do that? Having opportunities like I did yesterday with doing a webinar for the Arizona Case Management Association, and then today being able to broadcast these thoughts and ideas, it is affecting people, or can affect people in a large way. And I'm super passionate about the space that we're in palliative care and hospice. And I know a lot of people, they hear that word, they shy away from it, they don't want to talk about it. And I find that moving into creative spaces where we can figure out how to talk about this with family, with friends, and make it more accessible, more amenable to people, it's really the challenge that I take every day.
End of life is something that nobody really wants to sit down and talk about. And we talk about a lot here on the show. And, my shout out to our audience is the conversation. Got to have it. If you don't have it, you're going to have lots of issues, not only emotional issues, physical issues, financial issues. These are things that we have to talk about, and we need to be open about it. And you know what? It's not such a bad word. It's not something that, in the olden days they wouldn't talk about. You get a chance to be a part of that journey. You get to decide what you want, right?
Absolutely. I actually have a really good story about that. Maybe it's a little bit long, so when we have a moment, if I have a chance to say it, I want to tell you.
Sure. I know we're going to hear music in a second, yeah. but I do want you to know that I did a little research. So while we were getting our show started, I looked at this, and it's actually been 2.5 years since you've been here.
Really?
Yeah, you were on the show with Dr. Troy Comstock, who's the former chief medical officer of HomeCare Arizona. And you were also on the show with John Marchica.
That's right.
Michelle Toff was on the show. Michelle Cornelius was on the show. We had a full studio in here. So, I love the fact that I've got you back, and love the fact that I got you one-on-one. And I do want to talk about end of life and pick up some of the conversation that we just finished up here on the first segment.
Sounds great.
You're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. I'm your host, Bob Roth. I've got Cameron Svendsen here in the studio. He's with Palliative Care Alliance and Faith Hospice. We'll be right back.
I remember the days I used to worry about my investments.
The Dow tumbled 200 points today.
Oh no, better sell. I used to panic.
Investors should brace for a scary ride.
Brace myself? I had white-knuckled fear of working till I was 97, but not anymore. I found a financial advisor with a long-term plan that works. Feels good.
Fleming Financial Services, a fee-based advisor who does what's best for you, not for the commission. With over 21 years in business, Fleming Financial Services has seen and helped clients through all kinds of market conditions. Have a long-term plan and work with someone that can help you alleviate the stress. Fleming Financial Services, your worry-free advisor. 480-632-8770. That's 480-632-8770. FlemingFinancialServices.com. Fleming Financial Services Inc. is a registered investment advisor offering advisory services in the state of Arizona and in other jurisdictions where exempted. Registration does not imply a certain level of skill or training.
Hey everybody, Mark Asher here with a story I think you all love and respect. You know, many times we hear about fathers turning the family business over to their sons, but it's not every day we hear about the daughters who end up running the family business. We are lucky here in the Valley as we have that very story with the Lund Mortgage Team. Let me introduce you to my friend, the CEO of the Lund Mortgage Team, Lisa Lund.
Hi, Mark.
Hey, Lisa, your dad, Stan, was one of the best in the mortgage business and started the company when you were just a young girl. How proud are you today to own the Lund Mortgage Team?
I'm extremely proud and honored. I was able to work with my father side by side for 16 years before he unfortunately passed away in 2014. In that time, he taught me how to run a business with honesty and integrity. My dad believed in handshakes, face-to-face interaction, and most importantly, putting the client first. Today, the Lund Mortgage Team continues to carry on this personal touch. My family would love to help your family with any of your mortgage needs.
Family owned and operated. Call the Lund Mortgage Team today, 623-875-9940.
Dell Small Business Technology Advisors know there's nothing small about your business. That's why we offer one-on-one partnership and reliable business PCS with Intel Core processors to help you get business done.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress HomeCare Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. I'm your host, Bob Roth, and if you're just tuning in, we're on segment number 2. I got Cameron Svendsen here in the studio. He's with Palliative Care Alliance and Faith Hospice. And that intro, that music was a shout-out to a buddy of Cameron's, Ken, right?
That's right. That is correct.
And yeah, a little 80s tune, LRB, Little River Band.
Fantastic band, fantastic song.
And Wes, he's an incredible engineer. I just want you to know that. He was able to pull that one out. So you requested it, and if you got any more, feel free to reach out to Wes.
That's a whole nother segment. We could talk about that for a long time.
I mean, we could do a whole show on that. Especially, the 80s, they had a lot of great tunes, but then they had some really, like Flock of Seagulls. And yeah, I don't know what they were thinking there, Boy George, Wham, okay. Mm-hmm. We digress. So just, really getting back to what we were talking about the first segment. We got a little quick bio on you, Cameron. So, I mean, you are like Geronimo. You are from Arizona, born and raised here. You kind of, saw the whole West Valley grow and really got introduced to healthcare at a very young age.
I did.
And here you are. You're, we were talking about end of life, but more importantly, as we close that first segment, I wanted to really pick up on the second half is advanced care planning, because if you don't have a plan, it's that old adage that you plan to fail. I mean, you have to put a plan in place. And my shout out to the listening audience is that we need to do advanced care planning now. We need to let our loved ones know what we want when the time comes.
So advanced care planning, it's almost like a fork. You've got advanced care planning, which is creating your advanced directives, which is what palliative care and even hospice representatives help with if there's a question about how to do that. A lot of people, I think, believe that you have to have a lawyer, an attorney, or somebody, even a notary, to be there to make it legal. And in Arizona, you need a witness. You need the documents that can be found on the Attorney General's website or in a number of places.
Secretary of State, Arizona Attorney Generals.
That's right. So hopefully people have done that already, but it's not a matter of completing the advance directives and putting them away and never looking at them again. It's about the dialogue that should be shaped around what it is to be cared for at end of life. And at end of life doesn't mean the last couple of days of life. End of life can, we don't know when that's going to be. It's based on an illness, a chronic disease that needs to be managed, a decline in functioning that happens with normal aging. That is something that has to be discussed because we all have parents and grandparents and people that are stricken with a terminal illness or some kind of disease that needs help. Palliative care does more, and hospice does more than just send in a team of people that can help with the management in person at home with that. I mean, there are emotional and spiritual and even psychological components to the fear and apprehension of going through the loss of control and the decline in physical functioning. And that's precisely what hospice and palliative care representatives need to do for patient and family.
Absolutely. And, I can't say this enough. We in HomeCare, and if you're just tuning in, Cypress HomeCare Solutions is in our 25th year. We celebrate our 25th anniversary in April. Hopefully you got our invite to our anniversary celebration. Yep. We help people in the earlier stages. I like to call it pre-acute, and before someone gets really, really sick. But when they navigate through their journey, and they get to the point where, it becomes outside of our scope, and they've been given a terminal illness diagnosis, we have that conversation about hospice. And the craziest thing, as much as we talk about advanced care planning, and before they even get to a hospice company like yourself, they are so reluctant because they don't want their loved one to know that it's time to give up. And they don't. And I almost can say it 100%. They don't respond immediately. And when they do, you know what they say. They say, I should have done this sooner. Every single time. Yes. Because the hospice company, the hospice experience envelops them. And all of a sudden, they have all these resources available to them. And I think that's the thing we need to be able to get that message out to our community, that hospice is okay. It's not a dirty word. It's not the Grim Reaper. Right, right. It's about comfort and about making their final days or weeks or even months as best as they can be. And for me, as a home care company, because we work really closely with hospice companies like Faith Hospice, we can work synergistic, symbiotically, and we're there keeping up the household, making sure that, food is there, making sure the house is clean, and administering to the patient themselves, but also to allow them to visit with family. Because the family shouldn't be the caregiver. The family should be there with their loved one.
Yeah, everything you said is accurate. And I'm passionate about the space that you're in. Home care is something I talk about on a regular basis at a state perspective, from a national perspective. What you do for the care of clients or patients is critical to allow them to stay at home.
Thank you.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you. And just a real shout out. I mean, you and I and 4 other individuals created the Safe Home Care Coalition, which was really put together to do what its name has said, or what name says, is to make safety part of home care and making people understand that home care isn't home care unless you understand who those players are. And I want to really give you a shout out. Mark Aspenson, Ralph Fern. Mark is with Visiting Angels. Ralph Fern is with Home Watch Caregivers. Crystal Wilkinson, who's with Adult Care Assistance. And Dawn Demers, who used to be with Home Instead, which is now with the Visiting Angels. It was really the 5 of us or 6 of us that made that happen, and we couldn't have done it without you. And it's really educating consumers And that's what it's really all about.
You know, at bedside in the hospital when I was there, and this is the 10-year period of time, I can't tell you how much misconception there was about home care and the cost involved and what it really entailed. So having the opportunity to represent you as a spokesperson for that coalition has been, and now we're going on 3.5 years, I think, of doing that, that piece. It's really exciting to be able to educate. And hospice and palliative care have the same issues. There's a lot of misconceptions. There's a lot the public doesn't know. So being able to sit with people or jump on a radio program to talk about how to take care of our seniors at home, this is a very important time.
And, you know, we talk about this, and, you know, whether it's how to do it, the safety piece to it. Unfortunately, like in anything else, you know, you do have bad actors. And, you know, people, you know, their intentions aren't, you know, well-intended, so to speak. They have other motivations, and a lot of them are money. And even in the hospice business, there are some companies out there, it's all about grabbing patients, and they'll do everything they can to do it. In the home care business, people will do whatever it takes, sometimes just hiring contractors, not employees, or, you know, having employees. And a lot of times practicing way outside their scope when home health should be in there.
Yeah, it unfortunately, we live in that society, and we live certainly in Arizona, which is an unregulated environment for home care. With hospice, there's some stricter rules, of course. With Medicare, you have to abide by. But we do our best to shape this, and by educating people to what it really is and how it's really done, I think the word's going to get out. I think there will be less apprehension to move forward in the next decade and decades to come for these programs.
So as we wind down this first half, you know, when I met you, I met you a long time ago when you were in the hospice business. When I met you, you were with this Palliative Care Alliance. Can you, just start us off, and we'll finish it off in the second half, third segment. Palliative care. Tell me, what is that? It's a French word, I think. And what does it mean? And what is it all about?
Well, palliative comes from the meaning of relief of pain, but we've taken it a step further. It's not so much pain management anymore as much as it is symptom management, which is very similar to hospice. But with palliative care, a person doesn't have to be terminal, or they don't have to be considered in that spot of 6 months or less to live like Medicare has designated the hospice service. So palliative care with chronic diseases like dementia and renal failure and heart disease and respiratory illness, other neurological deficits, those kind of chronic diseases need to be managed, especially at end stage. So when somebody needs a nurse, needs a social worker, needs a physician or a nurse practitioner at home, that team goes in, providing assistance or care, support to be able to manage it appropriately. And then that patient and that family have somebody to call if there is a medical change. Up to this point, it's been 911. Hey, that's what we're going to do. We're going to go to the emergency room. Well, guess what? I haven't met a person that says, I can't wait to go to the emergency room. This is going to be great. They want to stay at home.
Exactly.
Well, how do we get them to stay at home? We see them there, and we put other services in place.
And make them as comfortable as possible.
Yeah, and that is palliative.
Yep. No, that is palliative. And it's hard to believe, Cameron, we're down 2 segments.
It goes by fast.
It really does go by fast. And we got a lot to cover here, but, during the halftime break, maybe we'll see if we can get Wes to play some of the other tunes that you might have in mind. But nevertheless, halftime here at Health Futures. Bob Roth, your host, is back. And I've got Cameron Svendsen here in the studio. He is with Faith Hospice and Palliative Care Alliance.
At the bottom of the hour, we pause for a look at the world's news. Then we're back with Money Talk. We're Money Radio 1510 AM and 105.3 FM.
The White House just revealing the president will hold a second summit with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un in late February, location uncertain. The announcement came after the president met at the White House with North Korea's top negotiator. The White House is trying to knock down a BuzzFeed report that alleges investigators have evidence the president tried to get Michael Cohen to lie to Congress. Here's White House correspondent Bob Costantini.
A new broader statement from the president's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani. Any suggestion from any source that the president counseled Michael Cohen to lie is categorically false. Michael Cohen is a convicted criminal and a liar. Giuliani concludes the accusation, as reported by BuzzFeed, is just more made-up lies born of Michael Cohen's malice and desperation in an effort to reduce his sentence.
Bloomberg reports China's offered to go on a 6-year buying spree to ramp up imports from the U.S. in order to reconfigure the relationship between the nations. Other reports say the U.S. is demanding regular compliance reviews. I'm Mike Moss.
Attention all authors. Page Publishing is looking for authors. Have you written a book and want to get it published? Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, Apple iTunes, and other outlets. They handle all aspects of the publishing process for you. Printing, cover art, publicity, copyright, and editing. Call 800-501-3689 now for your free author submission kit. That's 800-501-3689 for your free author submission kit. Again, 800-501-3689.
Looking for ways to save with your Medicare plan? Walgreens is a preferred network pharmacy with many plans nationwide, which could mean lower copays for you. So bring your prescriptions to a Walgreens pharmacy today to start saving. Walgreens, trusted since 1901. Walgreens participates as a preferred network pharmacy with United Healthcare, Cigna HealthSpring, and Express Scripts Medicare. For a complete list of available plans, please contact 1-800-MEDICARE. TTY users should call 1-877-486-2048. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or consult www.medicare.gov. Other pharmacies are available in our network.
Retirement. Are you near it or already in it? Well, this place, Money Radio, is a place to stay to make sure it all works out the way you want. We're all about money right here.
Financial words of wisdom with Market Wrap host Mo Ansari.
Staying out of the market is the most dangerous thing you can do for your financial future.
If you continue to spend like a drunken sailor, you're going to run out of money. That's the reality. This is not poker. This is your financial future.
It's helpful financial food for thought on your drive home with a host who tells it like it is. Market Wrap with Mo Ansari.
Catch Market Wrap on Money Radio 1510 and 105.3 Monday through Friday at 5 p.m.
Oh, it's okay, baby. Remember last time? It wasn't so bad. Remember? The dentist was really nice, and you even got a prize at the end. Mm-hmm. Now, come on. Let's be a big boy and let the dentist check our teeth.
Oh, okay.
Dad, you're such a baby.
Don't worry. Dr. Jeffrey Clark of Scottsdale Dental Excellence specializes in painless dentistry. From baby teeth to senior care, even our most nervous patients stay calm and comfortable. Whether it's a simple cleaning or complete dental reconstruction, Dr. Jeffrey Clark at Scottsdale Dental Excellence uses today's advanced techniques that make a real difference in your health and your appearance. We offer a full scope of general and cosmetic dentistry with expertise ranging from porcelain veneers to dental implants, crowns, bridges, including the successful treatment of sleep apnea. Get your free exam today by calling Dr. Jeffrey Clark at 480-585-1853 or go to ScottsdaleDentalExcellence.com. Conveniently located at Bell Road and the 101. Call 480-585-1853 or go to ScottsdaleDentalExcellence.com.
Are you purchasing a home or looking to refinance? Confused about mortgages or the process of getting a mortgage? You're in luck. Joe Capitano, Senior Vice President with Homeowners Financial Group, will bring his 27 years of experience specifically to coach and educate you. Listen every Wednesday at 1 p.m. for his extensive knowledge in terms you will understand. Welcome Joe and the JoeLoans.com Hour. Online at JoeLoans.com. That's JoeLoans.com.
Dell Small Business Technology Advisors know there's nothing small about your business. That's why we offer and reliable business PCS with Intel Core processors to help you get business done.
Jim Chesko with Your Money Now. With a rapidly moving winter storm bringing snow, sleet, and ice from the Midwest to New England, many airlines are waiving date change fees for travelers slated to fly from more than 24 northern U.S. airports. Airlines have already canceled about 120 flights for Saturday in and out of Chicago's O'Hare. American Airlines, Delta, United, and JetBlue all said travelers booked this weekend to or from airports in the Midwest and Northeast, including those serving New York and Boston, can change their tickets to fly as late as January 23rd. Airlines urge travelers to check their airline's website for travel information. Stocks remain sharply higher. The Dow Industrial is up 294 points. The Nasdaq has jumped 71. Tiffany this morning reported holiday period sales that declined from a year ago and provided a downbeat full-year profit and sales outlook. It attributed the disappointing results partly to lower sales to foreign tourists and to softening demand from local customers in the Americas and Europe. Despite all of that, shares of the luxury jewelry retailer are up 5.25%. That's Your Money Now.
Get up first thing, smoke a cigarette. Before lunch, after lunch. Now that I'm talking about it, I'm kind of feeling like I've lost about 4 hours of every day. I decided I needed to find an alternative. So I started looking, and then Jewel came up. I did both for a while. Eventually, I just switched over, and it's very quick.
Mimi made the switch July 2015. Make the switch at JUUL.com. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
Stocks are soaring, and construction spending across America has been on the rise. If you've been waiting to build, the time is now. Whether you want to expand your business or you want to build a new garage, call General Steel today. Our metal buildings are custom designed for your needs. For example, a 40 by 60 is a great space for an auto shop or 3-car garage. And if you call General Steel today, it's on sale now for under $25,000. Call 866-95-STEEL. 866-95-STEEL. That's 866-957-83.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. We're in our second half. And we got a little bit of why can't we be friends? Thank you. I really appreciate that, Wes. And, if you're just tuning in, I got Cameron Svendsen here in the studio. He is with PCA, that's Palliative Care Alliance, and he's with Faith Hospice. And I say, why can't we be friends? Because of this government shutdown. I make it a point not being political in the show, and I'm not going to take politics to the show, but I will say this. 800,000 government workers are now going into their 5th week without receiving a paycheck. That's a problem. It's a real, real problem.
Yeah.
And you know what? Whether you're right, left, conservative, liberal, independent, we need to be friends. We need to come together, and we need to work this thing out. We need to get those people their paychecks. We need to get them working. I am so fearful that TSA, air traffic controllers, Coast Guard, they do a walkout, or they got people calling out sick, that we have something happen. So shout out to our government workers. Hang in there. We're going to be friends, and we're going to get this thing done. So
that sounds good.
Speaking about friends, you're my friend. So Cameron, thank you for being aboard. And as you heard in our second segment, we talked about Safe Home Care Coalition, and Cameron has been really instrumental in us getting this message out into our community, and basically mainly our healthcare community, helping case managers and social workers and people in the medical profession to really understand what home care is. And because of your longevity in this space and your respect that you get, I can't thank you enough for getting that message out and helping consumers, because at the end of the day, it is about the consumer getting that transition from that acute and post-acute setting back to home with a safe home care.
Well, I totally agree. And it starts with people like you and I believe, to be this passionate and to want to find platforms to get out there and talk. And because it's one thing to do one-on-one with a family or a patient or client and impact their lives right then. But I think the next step that a lot of us need to take, we almost have an obligation, a responsibility to disseminate on a larger scale some information that people don't know about. And there's a lot out there. I mean, healthcare is a huge industry across the board. And I think what you have with most healthcare, or a lot of healthcare, is preventative medicine nowadays. Well, that's great. And I'm glad that the preventative stuff is available for everybody, because I do think more than any other time in American culture, we have an opportunity to utilize the internet and other places to find our own information and make our own choices about our health care. But when you get to be a certain age, or when you develop chronic diseases, which 90% of people in the world will do in their lifetime, and as we get older, average lifespan is 78 years, it's going to keep going up. Chronic disease management becomes very important. Terminal illness, at some point, a chronic disease becomes terminal at some point in our lives, whether that's at age 80 or age 105. We're going to be dealing with that. And I think it's a lot easier to shy away from that, but it's a necessity to learn about it. Mm-hmm. So we need people like us out there to be able to stand on these platforms.
Well, absolutely. And the preventative piece is so important. And I think part of the healthcare system, what makes it broken, is that it really isn't healthcare; it's sick care. And until we really wake up and understand that, we need to be in charge of our own health, and we know what's good for us and what's bad for us. And listen, I lost my mother almost 17 years ago, and I lost her to heart disease. She had a massive heart attack and never was quite the same, but she was a product of the 50s. She started smoking as a teenager, and she didn't exactly, watch what she ate, and, that all caught up to her. And, it really pains me to see these kids today smoking cigarettes, because they should know. Cigarettes are not good for you. Drinking soda every day, not good for you.
Nope.
We were meant to move, and we need to be moving. We need to be eating right and getting sleep. I mean, these are very important things. And the social aspect is so important. And my listeners have heard me talk about older adults. I mean, we have nearly 1/3 of our population, 65 and older, that lives home alone. And social isolation is killing them. It's the equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
Well, it's interesting that you say that. So the palliative care piece provides a social worker. Our Palliative Care Alliance does provide a social worker as part of the team to go in somebody's house. Well, a lot of people who don't know what social work is, or it's a very broad topic, it's a very broad industry. The social and emotional piece that is provided by somebody sitting with a patient and talking about their life and where they are in their health and in their spirituality and a lot of pieces that go into health. The social aspect of somebody as they get older, like you indicated, the isolation piece. I can't tell you how important it is to just stop by and be able to impact them right then for that moment and hopefully stimulate some interest in getting out. Consider volunteering if they have the ability, or bringing other people in like HomeCare if they have the ability, so that it's not an isolation issue.
A lot of times HomeCare, we're called in to do exactly what you're talking about, be that companion. We've got a widowed individual or widower, and, they become recluse, and the adult children or other family members are worried about them, and we need to get them back out and be socially engaged. I want to just finish off on talking about palliative care, because we kind of closed the second half to it. You've done this now for 5 years. What would you say for you has been, one, the greatest accomplishment, and two, what have you learned through this entire process? Because, you have dedicated the last 5 years of your life into this. And, while a lot of hospice companies say they practice palliative care, I mean, you were actually out there doing it. So I'd love for you to take the mic and walk us through, the greatest accomplishment, and what have you learned?
I appreciate that question. That is a question that's often asked, and if I have time, I usually give people the long version. But for the sake of just being concise, the most exciting thing is being an entrepreneur, is being a pioneer. And I owe that to actually my wife, Mei Ling, who has taught me how to be new in an industry and take it and be positive about it and look for the elements of benefit for our lives and for the people that we can impact. And she's one of the best at that. But for palliative care purposes, there isn't Medicare coverage for that, other than to say a physician visit for a patient at home, and they can bill for that under Medicare as a palliative visit. But that in itself is not palliative care. The holistic approach that is palliative means that it has to be interdisciplinary. So yes, I think there are a lot of hospice companies out there that will say they have a palliative component. Well, in order to be a palliative program, you have to have a separate license. So you can't just have a hospice company say they do palliative care without creating a separate license for that program and having a separate staff that goes in and see patients. So that's what we created.
And it's licensed through Centers of Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS.
It's licensed through the Department of Health.
Okay.
So, yeah, we operate in essence as a physician's office or a home health company. There is an unspecified license until we can get a specific license for palliative care, which we are working on right now with the Department of Health and the state. Until that happens, we're going to continue to do what we do and operate as if, even if people don't know what palliative care is, because we are not hospice, we are a palliative care company, we explain that consistently to the patients and families that we deal with so that they know that they're not receiving hospice until they need to.
Right.
And in the meantime, they'll have a separate program that offers what they need for their chronic disease management.
What would you say is your greatest accomplishment?
You know, having the health plans recognize it finally is probably the best thing that I can say, because when we got into this, everybody would say, well, how is that paid for? If Medicare isn't covering that, who is? Well, our goal was to offer it at the same time we were seeking coverage for it. So that takes time. And we finally do have health plans in the fold that do provide the coverage for it.
Nice.
Yeah. So until Medicare finally figures that out with programs like ours that does the proof of concept, we expect that that'll come down the pike sometime soon in the next 5 or 10 years. Until then, we have our state plans that are covering it.
Well, let's hope it doesn't take 5 to 10 years.
Let's hope.
Let's definitely hope, because there is a great need for the work that you're doing, and you have a lot of families that could vouch for that, and you're making a difference in people's lives. You know, I want to talk about in the second half, or the fourth segment. We are in the second half. I'm blaming it on the anesthesia. So I want to talk about Faith Hospice and when is it time for hospice. And I want to talk about how you pivoted back into the hospice field after doing Palliative Care Alliance. You're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. We're finished our third segment. Stick around for segment number 4. I got Cameron Svendsen in the studio. We'll be right back.
Are you sick and tired of hearing, don't buy an annuity until you've spoken to the so-called experts? If so, call 800-957-5604, extension 200, to learn the concept of a principal-protected, low-cost, new generation annuity and the various options. Listen to Secured Financial Solutions every Monday and Thursday at 1 p.m. on this station to prevent a derailed retirement and from purchasing the wrong annuity, especially the high-risk, high-fee variable annuity and complex proprietary index annuities. Secured Financial Solutions will help you understand the difference between true stated guarantees and non-guaranteed returns. Call 800-957-5604, extension 200, and visit dreamretire.com.
Investment advisory services offered through Virtue Capital Management, LLC, VCM, and Registered Investment Advisor. VCM and Secured Financial Solutions, LLC, are independent of each other. Annuities are insurance products, backed by the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the insuring insurance company. Information provided is not intended as tax or legal advice and should not be relied on as such. You are encouraged to seek tax or legal advice from an independent professional.
Thank you all for your support. This has been a great example of how we can come together. And to show our thanks, we provided these commemorative T-shirts for everyone.
Everyone? What? I only ordered enough for staff.
Are you kidding me? Houston, we have a problem.
Need promotional products for your business in a hurry? Embroid Me of Scottsdale is your source for just about anything you can put your logo on to promote your business. Hats, shirts, bags, pens, cups, gifts, unique and specialty items, conference and branded apparel, and so much more. Whether you need 1 or 10,000 items, Embroid Me will make you look like a million. Visit the Scottsdale showroom on Bell Road and our branding experts will make your business stand out. Embroidery, screen printing, anything you want to put your logo on. Promote your brand the right way with Embroid Me of Scottsdale. Learn more now. Search Embroid Me Scottsdale or call 480-998-9199. That's 480-998-9199. Or search Embroid Me Scottsdale right now.
Brought to you by Blue Emu. Blue Emu supports healthy muscles and joints. Blue Emu works fast and you won't stink.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. I'm your host, Bob Roth, and if you're just tuning in, we're in our fourth segment, and I've got Cameron Svendsen here in the studio. And Cameron, it is Cowbell Friday.
It sure is.
Working for the weekend. This is our last segment, and you and I are going to go grab a bite to eat. I will not be able to partake in a cocktail maybe till after 5, but I want you to know how much I appreciate having you here on the show today. And one of the things that our listening audience doesn't know about you, and I recently learned about you, is you are writing a book.
I am. Thank you.
You are a book writer. You are going to have a New York Times bestseller. I know it. And I know the title, and I want you to talk a little bit about the origin of this book. It's called Death Defying. Tell me about how this book came to be, and where are you at in it?
So the last 20 years of evolution is the essence of this book. And, you know, a lot of people say, I'm going to write a book. I expect to write. I think I've been saying that for a large majority of my life. When you finally have the inspiration to put some pen to paper and words start coming out is when it comes to fruition. And I got to say, I was a speaker first before I was ever a writer like this, and I did a lot of presentations. And one of the presentations I did was called Changing the H Word. Changing the H word being hospice, the only way we change something is if there is impetus to change, right? Mm-hmm. You can't change what hospice is. What you can do is impact what people fear about that word. And I thought about what we fear in death, and I thought, wait a minute, we haven't experienced death before. What is there to fear? I mean, you only fear what you can see and what you can, actually, right? What's real. So with the idea of fearing death, I thought we need to break this down into pieces, manageable, tangible pieces. And what I did is I figured out fear of the unknown, fear of pain, fearing of losing control, fear of leaving people behind, and fear of what I call spiritual regret, eternal punishment, something. Wow. Yeah, those are things that we can face.
Absolutely.
So the book, Death Defying, is talking about the American culture and what we do to stave off everything we can do to stave off death or aging. We do anything and everything to look younger, feel younger, appear younger, and that is okay. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. What I'm saying is without being able to realistically challenge what we fear about our end of life, it can cause other crises in our life, in our relationships, in our families and friends, and I think it's super important to deal with it. And so that's precisely what the book does, is offer real-life solutions to those fears.
And when do you think you'll be done?
I am shooting for summer.
For summer. So that may be something will be released in 2020.
Definitely.
So
yeah, hopefully end of the year, but yeah.
That's exciting. That really is exciting. And you and I talked off the air about bucket lists. And I used to be like a big advocate of bucket lists. And then, someone told me the other day, what do you do when you are through your bucket? Does that mean you're ready to die? And you made a comment. You said, no, you refill your bucket. Right?
Absolutely. Well, my bucket list when I was 21, graduating from college was I need to learn how to drive a stick shift. I need to learn how to tie a tie. And I want to do skydiving. Well, now that I've done that, it wasn't like, okay, my life's over. There's plenty of other things that have been added to that and accomplished already. So, yeah, you just keep refilling until you're done.
All right. Well, I'm going to continue to refill my bucket list. So I want to pick up on how we ended the third segment. So you pivoted over to hospice. Back to hospice because you were a hospice guy before. So Faith Hospice, and I want you to share with our listening audience how you got into back into hospice, but also talk about when, and we'll conclude the segment when it's time to engage, because we talked about that in the second segment where I told you about HomeCare. We tried to advocate for hospice, but we get so much pushback, and then when they ultimately engage, they realize they should have done it sooner.
So pivoting back into hospice was a natural move. Doing palliative care, we had some hospice partners for a little while, and it worked for a little while, but we really found that having the consistency of a hospice when patients needed a transition from palliative care into hospice made a lot of sense. So acquiring that and building that now, and it's become now over the last year and a half already quadrupled in size. It's really, really I hesitate to use the word fun because I think people look at hospice and they think, well, that can't be fun.
Right.
But what can be fun when you're building something and when you hire the right people to go impact people's lives, there's a lot of reward intrinsically from doing that. So doing palliative care was and is very, very rewarding and beneficial for me and for the people that we see. And then doing hospice, because I had done that in my career over the last 20 years, either at bedside with being a social worker or doing director of education work for a large national company, it made sense to continue to do that as well. And so I would say that with hospice, being able to define that at a large level, and then bring it back to the individual personal level with patients is challenging, but it's necessary. We got to get past this stigma.
We do.
I mean, the stigma about hospice and 6 months or less, we've got to get over that. It's not 6 months or less. And I want people to understand this. Whoever's listening out there, share this with people that you know. The idea is, if a person does not want to seek curative measures for an illness, if they're done with the aggressive poking and prodding that occurs inside a hospital, if they're done calling 911, if they're tired of the way that they feel, comfort care through hospice becomes critical, becomes very important. And it's less so about the quantity of life or the quantity of time and much more about the quality.
Thank you.
But it doesn't matter if that is a year and a half of having the intervention that hospice can provide. If we can get involved at an earlier time and give people the quality of life that they actually want, because they've chosen that. They've chosen not to seek, dialysis for renal failure, chemo or radiation for cancer. If they're done with that, if they've tried it and it hasn't worked, or they're just tired of the way that they feel, a phone call to Faith Hospice is wise.
Awesome. We're getting ready to wrap up. So how do they reach you if they want to talk to you about palliative care or Faith Hospice?
Well, they can call me directly. I mean, I'm fine with talking about this with absolutely anybody. Is this where I provide that information?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Well, my phone number is 623-337-2583. But I think that calling Faith directly at 602-476-2047 is probably the best move, whether it's palliative care or hospice. I think that's great. I personally will talk to anybody.
And I like the fact that you gave out your personal number. And the fact is that, Cameron is here as a resource. You've been amazing to work with the Safe Home Care Coalition, and how watching you navigate through that whole healthcare spectrum to be able to help educate healthcare workers on the benefits of home care has been nothing but short of remarkable. Thank you for being a guest today.
Hey, thank you. This was a lot of fun.
Time flies.
It
really
does.
So we got a little Fleetwood Mac taken out. Is that good? That's a little good 80s.
Stevie Nicks is one of the best.
Yeah, and she's a local here.
Yes.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to definitely have to not wait 2.5 years, Cameron.
Let's not.
So thank you for being back. Make it a great day. Have a great weekend. We will be back next Friday. Bob Roth is back as your host. And thank you for tuning in to Health Futures.
There's no place like home. You've been listening to Bob Roth's Health Futures. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call Cypress Home Care Solutions at 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Or visit cypresshomecare.com. Be sure to join Health Futures with Bob Roth every Friday at noon, right here on Money Radio 1510 and 105.3 FM.
Financial market analysis from Market Wrap host Mo Ansari.
Diversification is the key. You have to have diversification in these markets. And if you have all your eggs in one basket, when things go bad, you're going to get hurt.
It's financial food for thought on your drive home. Market Wrap with Mo Ansari.
Catch Market Wrap on Money Radio 1510 and 105.3 FM Monday through Friday at 5 p.m.
Money Radio 1510
and 105.3 FM.
KFNN Mesa Phoenix and K287BX Mesa. How are things looking in your financial portfolio right now? Keep listening to Money Radio, and soon they'll be looking up. Take a look at the market. Dow up 297 points at 24,667. S&P up 30 points at 2666. And NASDAQ up 64 at 7149.
When people want to talk about money, this is the place they come to. And there's more on the way after this break for the latest news. And we begin